in inbound, within HubSpot, within the tech space. And I'm really just excited to introduce you to all of them. So our first speaker that I'd like to welcome is Justin Gracie. He is the Principal Marketing Manager at HubSpot. Justin focuses on creating mutually beneficial go-to-market strategies and campaigns through the HubSpot Solutions Partner Program. Much of his work has focused on the ins and outs of HubSpot's fast-growing CRM platform. Having been part of the launches of CMS Hub, Operations Hub, HubSpot Payments, and many more products. In addition to launches, he helps create and iterate on HubSpot's positioning and messaging. In his free time, he likes to get out of the city and into the wild. Whether it's hiking, mountain biking, or skiing, he loves it all. Welcome, Justin. You can't hear him yet, but he'll be here in a second. Next, I'd like to welcome Zachary Chastain. Zach is the HubSpot Solutions Consultant at SmartBug. So we are, if you didn't know, one of the highest rated elite partners within the HubSpot ecosystem. And so Zach really helps us focus on the architecture, design, and implementation of technical projects like CRM migrations, integrations, and complex RevOps processes in HubSpot. He has worked in the HubSpot partner ecosystem for 8 years and worked in digital marketing agencies for 11 years with hands-on experience in nearly every aspect of digital marketing strategy, as well as experience leading an agency's digital marketing department. He's spoken to students at Clemson University twice about the technical side of marketing and marketing tech, and mentors students and young professionals who are looking to start a career in the RevOps ecosystem in his spare time. His writing on the industry has been featured by leading industry publications and think tanks, published authors, agencies, and universities in the US around the world. Welcome, Zach. We're glad to have you. And last but not least, we'd like to welcome Julie Kim. So Julie is a product lead at Typeform, driving integrations and platform strategy, encompassing 10 plus strategic integrations and 7,500 plus developer apps. Before Typeform, Julie served product roles at IBM and RingCentral. Julie is a graduate of Cornell, and she is data-driven, empathetic, and a passionate leader. She brings along she uses open dialogue and a shared understanding of goals to create a unified product, vision, and strategy. She brings expertise in B2B SaaS, user research, data strategy, platforms, and ecosystems. So welcome to all of them. We'll click over so we can see all their faces. All right. So glad to have you all here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's great to be here.
Wonderful. We are going to go ahead, and now that we've got us all on screen, we'll click back to the results here. I think that we've got them in. So let me go ahead and get those up for us. All right. Okay, I think we're good to go. We can click over and look at those results. Awesome. So again, you're not going to be able to hear the team right now, but I'll give you just you can see right here, we've got from sort of the lower end to the high end, there's a nice curve here. We've got a couple of us that are not HubSpot users on the call. Great to hear. And the majority of you feel like you've been using it for a while. You're just not an expert in all of the Marketing Hub. So love to hear it. And let's dive right in. All right. So I'm glad that we can all see, what we've got going on here. It's just good to know where our audience stands. So when we're talking about, we'll go back, we'll stay right here for a second. When we're talking about advanced HubSpot use, what we're really talking about is increasing connectedness, right? So we're making connections with our target audiences by speaking to them specifically through smart content and by understanding them in better and advanced reporting and data. And that in turn kind of increases the connectedness that we have with our internal executive teams. As we're able to tell the story of our marketing results better to them by understanding what's going on. So I'd love to hear from all three of you, just kind of high level what we're going to dive into over the next 20, 30 minutes here, and your opinions on all of that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, on the HubSpot side, this story of connectedness, I love it, and it's so important right now. So I don't know if the folks here who are attending were at Inbound 2022 this year, HubSpot's annual conference. But basically, we framed the whole conference around this narrative of connectedness and why it's important. And really, to recap that in a few sentences, is what we're noticing out in the world has changed drastically. And what I mean by that is in the way that buyers are buying and sellers are selling. And if you hit the next slide, some of the points that Yamini, our CEO, made during the presentation, the keynote. I don't know why the bars aren't showing up on that, but they are cool. And some of the points that she had made through some of our research that we had done at HubSpot was digging into what's holding us back from this connectedness and adapting to these new buyer behaviors and selling in a more engaging way. And what we found was the biggest pain points that businesses out there are dealing with are disconnected systems and data, which is like, obvious. How do you make any decisions or interact with a prospect or a customer when you don't have the right data connected in? Also, we saw pain points around difficulty engaging prospects, struggling to get up on the Google search results, struggling to see your ad campaigns perform as good as they used to. The cost of acquisition is increasing drastically. So all of these factors are now affecting businesses today. And this whole idea of like, how, what do we do next is kind of where we're at. And there's this playbook that we've used in the last decade plus that worked really well up until this point. But looking ahead into the next decade, we know that we need to adapt that playbook. And beyond just technology alone, just the way that you think about how you approach a buyer fundamentally is changing. And if you hop to the next slide quickly, this is the last little recap slide I'll hit on. Yamini, our CEO, presented like a very high level view of like what this new world might look like, this new playbook. And what she really hit on was the importance of first party data, right? Third party data is really hard to use these days across ad networks with privacy laws and regulations. Also, figuring out new distribution channels, figuring out how your sellers can engage buyers in a more meaningful way, not just hitting them with a cold email that says, hello, Joe Schmo, would you like to set up a 30-minute call with me? And it's like, no, I don't want to set up a 30-minute call with you. I don't know who you are or what you're trying to do. Like, you can't hard sell them on a first email. So like all of these different factors are what we're starting to think about both at HubSpot and across the industry right now on how we can adapt into this new world. But one of the biggest ones, I think, is around obviously first party data and this whole idea of like, how do you connect things together so that you can build that whole picture around the buyer. So I know Zach and Julie both have some thoughts on this as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the building that infrastructure is such an important part of the work that we do on the technical side here at SmartBug. Like, building connections doesn't stop with the data inside HubSpot. It's also really important across your entire tech stack. And that's where you see a lot of these issues with disconnected data and siloed data happening. And so, when you can solve for that disconnected and junk data, that really helps you unlock the full potential of HubSpot and also the rest of your stack too. Which is really essential for just like understanding realizing that full ROI of the investments that you're making in tech, in order to enable you to be able to like do all of this more advanced RevOps work, give your customers that elevated experience. You have to build all the stuff you need on the back end to be able to do that. And it all starts with just designing that data architecture in a way that gets all the data that your teams need to do their jobs in the places that it needs to be in your tech stack.
Yeah, that's right, Zach. And also, I'd like to add in the theme of the connected customer, connected customer experience. The new playbook is the first-party data approach, which leads us to tools like Typeform, because Typeform is a tool for you to collect first-party data in a way, because we transform data collection into conversational experiences with your customers, which translates to better engagement with your customers and audiences that leads to better response rates as well as quality data. So back to you.
Absolutely. I love it. And I'd actually like for us to dive into our first question here. So I think that it makes sense for us to start at the front of the flywheel, the top of the funnel. When we're thinking about the journey of our customers, obviously we have to start at that kind of demand gen, lead generation. How do we get them in the door? How do we make them even aware that we exist? So how can we use advanced features within HubSpot to get connected with our audience before they even know us? How can we use those features to attract visitors and create demand within that audience? Let's go ahead and how about we start with Justin this time again?
Yeah. So feeding off of that whole story of connectedness and the importance, like Julie just mentioned, of having that more context around the buyer and your prospects, using that first party data that you're building and collecting off of them. It's so critical going into this next phase. And in terms of like how do you attract visitors to your business? The old way, or still the same way of, running ad campaigns, having SEO optimized. And we know, like I just mentioned, that SEO is getting more expensive to figure out. It's harder to climb the Google search rankings when Google's taking up half of it with ads and snippets and all these different things. And then these ad networks are becoming harder and harder to compete on. Not only with like the cost that it is to acquire customers through those channels, but also like the targeting that you can have around these buyers using the audiences that you have. And with all these privacy rules coming in, it's super hard, right? So one of the improvements related to first party data that I do want to hit on within HubSpot is ad conversion events. So this is just a simple screenshot of what it looks like here. But obviously, like, what we're saying here is that customers want more than, ads that are gathered from third-party data. So they don't want to be targeted through these experiences and lack of context of who they are as a buyer. They want to see real effort from your company to reach them and engage them in a meaningful way. And how do you do that? You leverage first-party data. So with these ad conversion events now in HubSpot, by the end of this year, HubSpot customers are going to be able to fully realize all of their first party data so that they can then use that first party data in a meaningful way to target, report, and optimize in this like cookie-less, privacy first world across all of their ad networks, Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, etc. So yeah, with the rise of first party data, you 100% need to be thinking about ways that you're going to adapt to your approach to marketing. And I know, like, for instance, we're just going to keep going back to this, but with Typeform, I love the way that information and data is collected through Typeform in an engaging way. It's not just a dry form that you're submitting your name and email. It's a conversation, right? So yeah, I know Julie has a lot to walk through with this as well.
Yes, I will go into a deeper dive of what you could do with Typeform and HubSpot together shortly. Zach, is there anything that you'd like to add before that?
Yeah, so just speaking to the ecosystem of apps, we see most clients that are using integrations like ZoomInfo and Clearbit to enrich their data as well. Anything from basic contact info to understanding what products they're using, what are they in the market for. So that's really useful to be able to tailor your message and your approach to be able to just take a better, more personalized approach to your marketing efforts. But it can also really help you understand like that total addressable market for a given campaign, understand like what titles your sales team is having the most success connecting with, and just generally help you understand who you should be targeting as well. So it's just a really great resource to be able to enrich that first party data of your own. Those are tools that have really reliable first party data that you can take advantage of. And even as that tracking and attribution landscape is shifting around the deprecation of third party cookies, and you see new potential solutions coming like Google's Flock or some of the unique ID based solutions that we're seeing, LiveRamp, for example. Those are tools that are going to allow you to keep enriching your own first party data, regardless of any like growing pains in that space as things just keep changing and timelines rearrange in that space over the next few years.
Yeah, and quickly just riffing off of what Zach just mentioned, like, Typeform being one of a great integration with HubSpot. HubSpot has a huge growing ecosystem of other integrations, some of the ones that Zach just mentioned as well. And if you're engaging buyers through different platforms that you're using that's not just HubSpot, and those platforms integrate with HubSpot, bringing all that data into the single source of truth, enabling you then to, create ad campaigns that are targeting based off of the interactions on your website, and knowing who they are and speaking to them versus just the same blanketed ads through all your networks. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of see customers use this one.
I love that. I think that it's like something that resonates with me so much, having HubSpot as the single source of truth. Like I just can't even, after having done it for so many years at so many different companies, like HubSpot being my automation system that I use. And here we're even more intertwined than anywhere else that I've ever been. But, we have all the hubs essentially. And so I just can't even imagine going back to a place where I don't get to, take the advantage of HubSpot being my single source of truth, and allowing me to really use those other integrations like to the best of their ability too.
Yeah, and not having to piecemeal or all the data that you're collecting and living in different places and try to build the story yourself, like being able to just look at a single contact record for a lead or a prospect or a customer, and to see the activities that they're taking through your ad campaigns or through your website or through your sales interactions, and then knowing when's the right time to follow up, what's the message you should deliver at that time. All of those things are hard to do with a lot of other platforms.
Absolutely, which actually leads us perfectly into our next question, because we're going to move through the funnel here. So I'd love to talk to the audience. We have, as we saw, our viewers right now, they were self-identifying as beginners to kind of intermediates within the HubSpot within the HubSpot hubs, essentially. And so we know that they're already engaging with their buyer personas just by the fact that they've kind of got those basic systems in place. But what more can they do? What advanced tools around automation can they use to elevate their marketing and make a more lasting impact? I'd love to hear. How about we start off with Julie?
Yeah. So I'll be showing a demo of Typeform and HubSpot better together, and how you can supercharge your buyer journey across all those different touch points where you have a Typeform as the front end interaction with your customers. So if Nikki plays the video, give me a cue and I'll just start. Okay, cool. So let's talk about how Typeform and HubSpot can be better together for the buyer journey. So let's start with lead generation. Let's say a marketer has a great ebook they want to use to capture new leads. They create a landing page with a Typeform embedded to create the most engaging lead capture experience possible. So when the prospect submits the form, they will receive an ebook in their inbox, just like that. So let's look at things from the marketer's perspective. Now that our prospect has filled out the form, I'll just wait a little bit. Okay, so now that the prospect has filled out the form, you can see the new lead showing up in HubSpot right there. That's great. The prospect is clearly showing some interest. So using HubSpot workflows, the marketer further decides to qualify those leads who have downloaded that ebook by sending a quiz to gather more information about the quality of the leads coming in. Because we already know the prospect's email, the marketer can use HubSpot to further nurture that lead. So we can set up a HubSpot marketing workflow. So this is an example of the quiz, the follow-up quiz that I will use in that workflow. So when setting up a marketing workflow, triggering when the Typeform has been submitted, we can trigger any follow-up action from sending emails, SMS, or creating a task for sales. In this example, let's trigger a nurture email. So after a few days, the prospect will automatically receive an email asking what else they might need help with, which is what you're seeing here. Here you can see a Typeform embedded directly into that email, which makes it super easy for prospects to engage. Once they answer that first question from their email, Typeform is actually saving their response, allowing them to carry on without having to re-enter any data. It's just a really natural way to continue the combo. So in this case, the prospect says they need help with app development. As the prospect fills out the form, it's progressively profiling behind the scenes to capture more information about that prospect. This means marketer isn't building new entries, but rather building out a sense of their prospects and customers over time. The real value here is the ability to capture first-party data directly from prospects and customers. Now, on the back end, since the prospect has already provided that email, the second Typeform interaction has successfully enriched that lead. So originally the information that the marketer had on that prospect was just an email and a name. But now, because of that second quiz, we've enriched that lead with more information like company size, lead score, and so much more. So based on the responses prospects gave in that quiz, Typeform also calculated a lead score for each question and passed along that total score over to HubSpot. Now, once marketers have that lead score, the possibilities are truly endless. You can also use other integrations like Slack. So you can send the high scoring leads over to the right sales teams to keep things moving and route those leads and close them further. And that wraps it up about how Typeform and HubSpot are better together.
That was awesome. It was a great, just a great, like, fully encompassing, here's how all of those pieces work together. We personally use Typeform, so this is like, again, touches really close to me. So I'm just like, yeah, I get it. This is what we do, and it works so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of, oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, thinking about, like, again, back to the beginning intro around like the way buyers want to engage, or like, what's a delightful experience look like. It's not like a trick that you're in the middle of this like quiz and you're like, wait a minute, I'm giving away a lot of information. It's like, no, you're actually like almost enjoying the experience you're going through, and you're willing to give that information in exchange for the experience you're going through and the end score. So yeah, I think it's genius.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's just the progressive way that you're going through the process versus, I've seen people try to build giant forms in the past, especially when they're really new to marketing, and so, like, that's a huge bonus for people, just to have an easy way to collect that data that feels natural for people to go through. And I think also a lot of like smaller organizations, they struggle with like, how can we build our own first party data? We don't have all of the tooling to be able to spin up all these great tools to collect all this data in the background. We can't buy data from some huge company. So, how do we kind of build that up? And this is just such a great use case.
Yeah, and one of the things I'd wanted to go deep in during the session to HubSpot's like data quality automation tools and all the cool things that you can do on the back end of HubSpot that help not only take that enriched data, and we'll actually come back to the WhatsApp thing in a second, but not only getting that enriched data, but then like what happens if a lead or prospect or customer like had a typo in that entry that they made through that experience, and giving you that information. So I won't go too far into the tooling because I know you guys covered that in a previous session, but Zach, I don't know if you have any thoughts around like the data quality and kind of what can be possible in HubSpot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we see a lot of data quality issues when working with clients. I don't think I've ever worked on a project in the last 11 years that did not have some sort of existing data quality issues. It's just something that everybody deals with. And you can look at something like as simple as having like a mix of abbreviations of like full names and abbreviations for something like states and countries. Think like Texas versus TX, or United States, and then someone misspelled it as the Untied States. You end up with all sorts of weird stuff in there, and you'd look at that and think like, that seems like some really innocent variations that aren't going to cause any major problems. Anybody who looks at this data understands what it means. But then if you have like lead routing automation that's depending on those values being formatted in a certain way, or if you have an integration with another system that depends on that value matching a pick list in another platform, now people aren't getting leads routed to them in a timely manner. That's going to hurt your speed to lead. Data isn't syncing between systems, so now you have siloed data, and you have teams that don't have access to records. They can't do their jobs. So if you're a HubSpot admin, or you're in a RevOps role for your organization, or that's something that you're looking to get into, implementing those like data hygiene best practices, having making use of the tools that HubSpot gives you for being able to deal with data quality issues. That's one of the most significant steps that you can take to just ensure that overall for your organization, your RevOps processes are functioning well. We've all heard like garbage in gets you garbage out, and those automated systems that HubSpot is putting into place and already has in place are kind of that first line of defense in keeping that garbage out of your CRM.
Yeah, and the cool thing is like as you start to enrich your lead data and have a better picture of what that person looks like and what they're interested in, and how you should follow up with them and message them. Thinking through the ways that you can engage with that lead and that buyer, like going back to one of Yamini's points around the new playbook is like diversifying that distribution. So like, what are the new channels that you're using to meet the buyer where they are? And if you didn't hear at Inbound, we made the announcement of the WhatsApp integration, which I'm really excited about. And I'm sure people in Latin America and EMEA are especially excited about, who are heavy users with WhatsApp. I don't know why Facebook Messenger is still like the top dog in the US. But either way, really excited about this update, which is going to be going live out of public beta very soon. But basically, thinking through how you're connecting in the channels that they want to connect with you through. If they're engaging with you through WhatsApp and that's their channel of choice, you can now integrate that with HubSpot, and it will actually match their WhatsApp number with their contact record to match their phone number with the WhatsApp number. So that way, if they're coming through the WhatsApp as their channel of communication to you, it'll actually come up on the activity feed on their contact record so that the sales rep, the marketer, or the service rep see that information coming through, and then they can actually respond through WhatsApp as a channel as well. So you can set up a business account with WhatsApp for your company, but you can also have customer or prospect initiated conversations coming the other way into HubSpot. So again, this is just like another way that you can start building familiarity with a prospect on a channel that they prefer, and then the things that you can do using automation after those conversations to follow up with them.
Yeah, that's such a great integration, because we always talk about how important it is to like be where your ideal customers are, and just the vast number of possible integrations with HubSpot allows you to really be able to do that.
Yeah, and like there's no point in, if you have a lead and you're sending them email after email on a daily basis or a weekly basis, but they don't check their email and they're not an email heavy user, then like you're just wasting calories on investing in that as a channel. So that's why HubSpot's big on channel selection, and we're doing our best to continue to try to bring in new communication channels and ways that you can engage buyers. So this is one of those improvements.
I love that. I totally agree. I mean, even over the past few years, it seems like you could have had a channel that your buyer personas, your clients, your customers, whatever have you that's in your audience was using. And now they no longer are, because technology moves so fast and things change quickly. And it's just, you think about things like snail mail, then it went to email, and then it's like people are seeing results with direct mail again because email inboxes are just so flooded. And so it's like there's this cycle of changing and figuring out where your personas are wanting to be communicated to at what time. And it shifts all the time. And it's like you just have to be prepared to make that change and hopefully invest in a technology that is also willing to make those changes and see those opportunities when they come up. So I love it. I'd like us to move on to the next question. We do have 4 total, so we'll see if we can get to everything here, or if we'll need to switch over to Q&A. But I'd love us to talk a little bit about reporting. So to me, when it comes to being connected, and when I think about like at work and connecting to my buyer personas and connecting to my audience and connecting with coworkers, kind of just making sure that all of those pieces fit together. That connection in general means the most to me when it's holistic, when big picture, all parties are connected. Because if we've got like broken communication in our internal RevOps, that's not really great. If we've got broken communication when it happens in the life cycle, of of our customers, that's not great either. If there's, some funky handoffs or whatever. So you just really want to make sure that those lines are all connected. So in the same way that HubSpot shifted, from the funnel to the flywheel to show the connection between delighting customers to attracting new, I think that part of that mental shift too needs to come from, once marketing has sort of done all of their due diligence on the external portion, that they have to continue that flywheel into reporting to be able to delight their exec teams. Because if we're not showing to our exec teams the results well, if we're not explaining that story through the data that we're collecting, then we're not going to prove out our ROI. We're probably not going to be seen as useful or effective, which we all know how that goes. It's not great. So I'd love to talk to you all, hear your opinions about some advanced reporting tips that you have, maybe to attribute value to certain pieces of content or conversions, or any advanced sort of reporting tips that you might have.
Yeah, I have like a couple recent improvements and features within HubSpot that help marketers accomplish that. The first one is a little bit of just like a fun update, and then it has a little bit of a reporting aspect to it. But the second one is really cool. We'll get to in a second. But with the improvements we've been making to our campaigns tool in HubSpot, so if you're unfamiliar with this, we've been making huge strides in the improvements to the campaigns tool. Think about the marketing campaigns tool in HubSpot as like the marketer's command center almost. It's like basically a place where you can bring together every aspect and asset and interaction with your campaign that you're running all in one place, and then to have a holistic view of that. So if you have CTAs that are associated with a campaign, form fills, or landing pages, emails that are being run to promote this campaign, like you name it, all of that can be pulled in as assets as part of that campaign, and you get that holistic view. So this is one way that marketers can start to get into that conference room and report out to your leadership on how the campaign is performing by showing it all in one place versus having to pull together all the different pieces and manually build all these reports. And some of the recent improvements to this tool have been like the ability to collaborate on campaigns. So if you have a larger marketing team, if you have just a couple people on your marketing team who are part of the build process or execution process, you can now comment and tag each other on the campaign or on individual assets within that campaign. You can highlight areas that you would like them to change or alter. So you can start to optimize these things and have a conversation with your marketing team asynchronously through the campaigns tool, which is really cool. And then, and Nikki, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this one. I know you're excited about the improvement to this tool where you can enter the budget that you have set for that campaign, yes. Which then allows you to like report on how you're performing against that budget. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but
I'm just excited about it. I saw Kyle Jepson's update on LinkedIn and I was like, ooh, this is coming. That's great. Like, it's just another piece to kind of tie everything together, when that's for me, that's been kind of one of like the little disparate things that sits on the side. I've got like budgets are in a spreadsheet somewhere else. They don't live in HubSpot, whereas pretty much everything else that I do and own lives in HubSpot. So it's kind of cool to see that those lines are going to get, they're going to be connected a little bit more, which is exciting for me.
Yeah. And like the whole idea around, there's some cool research out there around like context switching for marketers and like how much time a marketer is spending jumping between different tools and trying to pull things together. Not even to mention like the data piece to it, but just like the asset piece to it. The cost is pretty high, both just not in time, but in the money that you're putting towards those resources.
Yeah, absolutely.
And quickly, I'm just going to continue to like nerd out a little bit on these, but this is like my favorite update probably of the year almost. And this is called Customer Journey Analytics in HubSpot. I think this has been like long awaited for a lot of people. People have been like in their heads, like, this is kind of like what I need. And like now we're finally delivering on it. But basically what Customer Journey Analytics will allow you to do is to identify the conversion path that a customer is taking or a lead is taking. So like, and where are they dropping off in that campaign or that process, that flow? So here you'll kind of see a little visual of like what this kind of looks like. Again, there's like a lot more you can do with it than what's captured here. But like this, what this allows you to do is then identify which touch points you're running are not working or are kind of the roadblock to your lead continuing their journey down the funnel or through the flywheel, or which conversion points are actually accelerating that process and bringing them straight from being a cold lead all the way down to a purchase. So this is another great way that marketers can start presenting to their leadership team to show the value that they're bringing to the company and in their campaigns, to show them, how they're optimizing things and getting more bang for their buck out of everything that they're doing. So yeah, this one, if you haven't looked at it, there's starting to be more popping out there in terms of content and videos. I think it's still in public beta, if not coming out of it soon. So there will be more to come with this. So I don't know if Zach or Nikki, if you've played around with this at all.
It's such a great addition because the only other possible way you could get this data, you're going to have to export data, mess around with spreadsheets, and it's going to be a whole lot of work. Most people, it's going to be over their head and it's too much time. They're too busy. And so to just have that at your fingertips, to know exactly what you need to optimize to keep multiple campaigns running, it's just a huge benefit. I've seen so many people over the years ask for something like this, and you could build parts of it in HubSpot previously, but like nothing that was so end to end.
Yeah, absolutely. We I've been playing around with this a lot internally, using it specifically for different kind of like channels that we've been bringing traffic in through, and seeing from that channel, what does that look like versus this channel? Like, do we have, what's really driving the most qualified contacts for us? So I love that we've got this here. I think that, kind of looking through our notes, I think that we might have some more to talk about if I go back to kind of the overarching question here, just reporting tips from Zach's perspective.
Yeah. So especially when you start to deal with integrations and looking at like your larger tech stack, um, you have to keep in mind that reporting starts long before you're like staring at that empty dashboard with the blank look on your face, thinking, how do I make this dashboard look really sweet? So, you need to make sure that you're getting all of the data that you need to be able to build those reports in the right places, and that can become difficult once you start working with integrations. It's really easy to gloss over some of those details. So I like to start out by just like mapping out the RevOps process from like the time a new lead comes in until they become a manager, just in like a simple flow chart. And then, just start to determine like what steps are going to happen in which tools. Just a little bit of light data modeling. And so, it sounds, when you say terms like data modeling, people are like, oh no, but it's really not that bad. And so like let's take an example. Like let's say that you have a team of SDRs and they're going to be working leads in HubSpot before they create deals. Then you have those deals syncing to another system. They become opportunities there and get closed by a team of account executives. You're going to want to think about like which direction you want your deal data syncing. In that case, you probably want a one-way sync from HubSpot to that external platform. But if your process was, marketing is operating entirely out of HubSpot, sales operates entirely out of this other system, well, now deals are probably being created elsewhere, and they might not exist in HubSpot at all. And so, that's a huge problem if you want to do closed loop reporting, because now you can't tie like your specific marketing efforts back to revenue. So now you're going to want to think about like setting up a one-way sync from that external system back into HubSpot for deal data, so that you can get your closed loop reporting and be able to attribute that revenue back to specific marketing tactics. So just planning ahead like that just allows you to make sure that you know exactly which data needs to be in which systems. And also you can figure out, are you missing key data before it becomes time to build your reports, and you don't end up being like weeks late on getting your reports in because now you have to go back and fix all of your data issues.
And also, like, add to that, thank you for sharing, Zach, the demo of the new campaign tool, because I hear from our customers a lot. They love to see their centralized reporting in HubSpot. Most of the time, they're using so many channels because it's omni-channel and how you want to engage with their buyers across all these touch points. And Typeform is just one of the many lead sources or channels, in addition to messaging or social media. So the one report that I do hear a lot about is the attribution of those leads and looking at the lead source reporting. So I know that's pretty hot.
Yeah, and with it's not new, but the custom report builder in HubSpot and with revenue attribution reporting for marketers, like HubSpot, it's been a little bit for us to get these features out there. Those have been live for a little while now, but those are so impactful to how you can report up to your leadership team and be able to show the ROI, and bringing in all those, like you said, integrations, all that data into view with what's working and what's not, is huge for a marketer now.
Absolutely. I know we're just about at time, actually. We did have a fourth question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give everybody a sneak preview. And in the follow-up email that you're going to receive with this recording in it, we'll have some answers for this question for you. So I wanted to thank Zachary, Justin, Julie. Thank you all for being here. And if anybody has any questions, go ahead, feel free to send them in. We will see them on the Brand Live page on social, and we can follow up with you individually. So thank you all again for coming.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.